everyone, and welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy. I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. It's hot. It's, early June, and we're getting 80, 90-degree weather. Good tidings, everyone. Hi. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Beginnings. This is a good one. This is Joe Rainey. If you don't know who Joe is, I'm going to read you his bio right now. Originally from South Minneapolis, musician Joe Rainey is a member of the Red Lake Nation of Ojibwe people and began attending and singing at powwows from an early age, as well as becoming a powwow singing archivist. Eventually ending up in Wisconsin, Joe began guesting with different musicians, both live and in the studio, working with people like Alan Sparhawk of Low, Bon Iver, Chance the Rapper, among many others. This eventually led to his debut album, Ninetta. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sorry, Joe, if I'm not. Which he composed with producer and artist Andrew Broder, and which was released at the end of May on Justin Vernon's label 37D03D. I don't know if that is supposed to be read in any certain way, but I heard Joe's album and I thought it was so great, and so I wanted to talk to him, and turns out Joe's great too. We talk about growing up in South Minneapolis and going to powwows and a lot of other stuff. I hope you enjoy this episode. If you do, and you want to subscribe to the show, you can do that wherever you get your podcast from. I have been doing this for 12 years, and I have talked to hundreds of musicians and actors and writers. Well, just recently, I talked to Dan Erickson, the creator of Severance. I've talked to comics creators like Kelly Thompson and Ryan North. Lately, I don't know, a ton of other people. Lennon Parham, wonderful comedian Lennon Parham, and so many others. So why not subscribe to the show? Also, I am on Twitter and Instagram at Andy Beckerman. Twitter for mostly dumb jokes. I'm still trying to treat it like it is 2011, and instead of screaming at people on Twitter, I just write jokes. And Instagram is just animal pictures and my wife mostly, so that's what you get on those platforms. Coming up, I got a lot of great episodes. Just today, I talked to Steve Keen, the brilliant painter who has done tons of record albums, including Wowie Zowie and a bunch for Silver Jews and Apples in Stereo and plenty of others. Comic artist Mike Allred, also coming up soon, who drew iZombie and Ecstatics and tons of other great comics. And Casper Kelly, great Adult Swim writer. So look forward to those. But for now, let's talk to Joe. You're in Wisconsin, right?
Yes.
How?
This is a Washington Senators hat. So, they became the Minnesota Twins, so I will forever defend this hat if it is ever called a Wisconsin hat.
You're talking to a guy who barely knows anything about sports, so you could say anything, and I'd be like, in an attempt to not be called out, I'd be like, you're right.
No, it's okay. You know what? Some days I wish I never even, I wish I was on your side of things.
I like watching, it's nice to go to a baseball game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I don't know how to get rid of this.
But I could not argue with you about RBIs or whatever.
Oh, no, I've not been that involved in the game in a while, but I'm a basketball fan.
Yeah. I mean, yes, that's the only thing that I will spend money to see, and only every couple years is a basketball game.
Yeah, I played it a lot, so yeah, it's just ingrained in my mind.
Like, you played it just for fun, or you played for school?
Yeah, I played for school. Went to 1 year of college and came home after 1 year. But I appreciated my experience, being on teams and, learning from coaches.
That's a very that's the answer that you would hear someone give in an interview after a game. I appreciate appreciate this opportunity.
I do, man.
Well, wait, what did you gain from it?
A lot of, you get to see different people from different backgrounds. Just meeting different people is one of my life, goals. And if we get into it, that's how I kind of, met Andrew, was just by talking and things like that. And, just being able to, take what they've learned and then using it yourself, or what they were teaching as in the coaches, and being a coach myself for, taking a break for a year, using what they've, remember, just becoming a coach in the last couple of years and kind of looking back on my, career, I guess you could say, learning from them coaches and, just listening to what they say, and then, just having it come out as a coach. It really just kind of had there was some reflection time where I'm thinking like, damn, I'm pretty grateful for basketball, because it has, given me a lot more than just, aches and pains every day. But I love the game for what it is and for what it brings to different people. And I'm a huge basketball head. Not to say that my head isn't big as it is, but I love basketball. Like, I love it a lot.
It sounds almost like the military, in the sense that, like, there's a bunch of people from a bunch of different walks of life that meet together in their platoon or battalion or whatever. And then you kind of have to, it's both like you learn from people and you have to learn how to tolerate other people who may be like pieces of shit, but you have to like work with them.
Hey man, that's your best shooter on your team. Right? That's the best. That's the guy who can dribble the best, or you know what I mean? Like, yeah, definitely, man. That's a good way of putting it too.
What were you like as a person before you started playing basketball, in school, like in a more disciplined manner? And then after you left in your first year, how did the whole thing change you as a person?
Well, I think just leading up, I think high school was more influential in my, basketball, like crossroads, I guess you could say. I was, not athletic. I just started gaining speed like as a freshman, so like that type of thing was just, people seeing the quality of, a certain skill of mine, and then allowing me to be on the team, even though, I have a weird body type, or I might move weird or whatever. They knew I could shoot the basketball, shoot the lights out. And also, gaining that confidence for me now to talk about my basketball game like that, of being able to claim to shoot the lights out. A lot of people gave me that. A few coaches in high school gave me that confidence to really be proud of something that you can do well.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that I took from it. And I always it changed in high school, I would say, like, just coming of age type stuff. But, that, few years, my body was able to develop enough for me to be asked to go and play for a junior college even, and I was really super thankful for that. And being a native person, to be able to achieve that goal also was, I understood how big that was. So I wanted to follow through. I didn't want to not disappoint myself, but then also, I wanted to follow through with, being the best shooter I could be, claim to be in the state of Minnesota,
Yeah. When you say you moved weird, do you think that helped in any way? Because
I just had a weird, I had a weird body. I had a weird body type, man. I still do. Like,
in what way?
I have super really long arms. And I might look like I'm flat footed, but I barely have an arch in my foot. So it's like, okay, yeah, it's just like my body type on the court wouldn't be like, oh yeah, let's pick that kid. But if you gave me space to shoot a basketball, I'd make you pay.
So, okay. Because I was thinking in my head, I'm like, I wonder if like that gave you some kind of advantage where they're expecting you to move in a certain way. And then
my coach would say if their hands were down by their waist, you have a quick enough release for them not even to affect your shot. So just if you see their hands down at their waist, you have the green light to just let them have it. And yeah, shout out to everyone who knows me as a shooting assassin.
So, okay, but then you went to a year of college. Did you leave because of an injury? Did you just not like college?
I moved away to Wisconsin. I started a family here. Love interest at the time. But yeah, I took it as a path of just what it was. And I had a few conversations, at that point where I wanted to leave school.
Mm-hmm.
But I made a choice based on where my life was going. And, I started to see a decline in, their want of me to be there.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very weird relationship at the college level. I was coming off a wrist injury, that didn't hinder my legs or my running abilities though. So, I kept up, running and stuff like that. And, I tried to show my worth to the coach any way that I could. And, it didn't seem like, I was gaining any trust or any playing time. So, I felt unwanted, I guess you could say.
Huh.
And, I just took myself and my energy elsewhere. And, I was away from home. I was not homesick. It just was a situation all coaches go through. But, I was, when those grades are going around and things like that, I didn't really, make the cut maybe, but I had enough to stay on the squad, so, not a lot of kids were on the bench at one point in the season. And, I felt like I was being overlooked, but, like I said, I took my energies elsewhere, and it set me on this course, coming to Wisconsin, I guess you could say is, as a Viking fan, I don't really want to think that changed my life, but, here I am.
Are the Vikings is that the Vikings that are the team that's owned by the people?
That's the Packers. That's where I'm at right now. I live just outside of Green Bay. They call themselves the owners. They all have, their shareholder certificate, and they're
waving it like like a terrible towel in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm pretty. I've been in a lot of Packer houses through work. I do heating and cooling, so I see a lot of Packer stuff. A lot of Packer stuff. Yeah.
Did you notice a change in the way people regarded basketball? Like once you were part of like the, playing for an NCAA team versus playing in high school, like was it professionalized? Was it commercialized in a way that wasn't fun anymore? Or like, I'm just curious about how that actually changes.
I wasn't this was, way back in 2005. So like all the, you can make money off your likeness and things. It was not even heard of or nothing like that. But I think in terms of, if you want to put it in perspective from like now and then, there's just so much more support for, athletes, especially native athletes. And I love that so much. I feel like that's really encouraging. And, maybe back then there was, but then, there's just, some kids who fell through the cracks,
mm-hmm.
which is okay. I tell my players, if you are good and you have, the knack for basketball and you want to keep continuing to the next level, they will find you. You don't have to worry about going to the best school, doing, all this stuff. It is, and trusting your game and your abilities to be the best basketball player you can be, and they will come and find you. I, had an incident with, just leaving my high school team too. So, I actually got on that college team because of my high school varsity coach, who I, had a rough relationship with at the end of my high school career. But, if it wasn't for him, then I wouldn't have been anywhere. So.
What do you mean by incident? Like you fought him or something?
No. The playing time thing, man. I always had that issue.
Uh-huh.
I've always had that issue. And I even have that issue sometimes now where people are like, they really don't take me serious, I guess. I don't know what it is, where I have, like, even just in the store, like, I'm just like, man, they're like, or if I'm checking into a hotel, like, there's just always something situational where it's like, really, like, man, it's just like, I'm not like a jinx or anything like that, but it's like, I do love Minnesota sports, you know what I mean? So it's like, we've been the lousiest of the lousiest,
Was it
the
any
best of the worst?
like? What was the composition of your high school? Like, what in terms of like
Diverse.
ethnicity?
Diverse.
Okay.
One of the most diverse high schools in Minneapolis. I mean, Minneapolis itself is pretty diverse, but
Yeah.
South High School is something different. And I will always have that bias because I went there. We had a lot of, our sports teams weren't the greatest, but man, we were, state debate champions. Our theater program was one of the top theater programs in the state. It produced a few, actors and actresses, so, on the arts were flowing there. Very artistic classmates I used to have. Very successful now that, a few of my classmates are on Facebook and things like that. Very successful classmates that I have. Very proud to have gone to South High School. Most diverse school in the city. It was the only school to have an Indian, a native magnet dedicated to native classes. Also taught language and culture classes, literature classes, things like that. So that was the only school in the city that had an Indian magnet. But it was already my home school. You did have to apply to different schools if you wanted to go to a different school, but that was already my home school. So, also most of my family members went to that high school. So, especially my sister Amy. So I already knew I was going to be a Tiger.
Okay, that's amazing then. So you didn't feel, or I'm guessing, you didn't feel alienated going there.
Heck no, man. And that's why I wanted, it was just so familiar to, to be there or to, go to school there. It was in my neighborhood, and I knew a lot of the kids that were going there, which was great, which is always more comfortable for my mom. But I understand that now, having five kids, so just being comfortable with your kids' surroundings is important for you. My mom was very comfortable there, knew a lot of the administrative people. My mom worked in the school system for almost 17 years.
Oh,
I
wow.
believe. That might be a rough year kind of thing, but she worked in education from start to finish to her retirement 2 years ago. So I've always been rooted in education somehow. Didn't really work out some days with some of the classes, but I loved it there at South High, and they did offer classes to native kids that some other schools may not have offered to us, like, AP courses and stuff like that. They really let us be who we were there. It wasn't, then that was for every group of every ethnicity,
Huh. That's amazing. I mean, what years are you in high school?
I graduated in 2005.
Okay. Cause that's still
freshman year was 9/11.
Oh, Jesus.
So, yeah.
I'm trying to think of like when does white supremacy in America really start to not crumble, but the facade crumble a little bit so that we can be honest about our past, right? Because like in high school, I remember in my AP history course, we finally started to touch upon, the white colonialist genocide, right? And
okay. Wow.
And that's
more than most schools, man. Let me tell you that.
That's late 90s. So, and I'm like, all right, when does that start to, and I'm like, oh, it's almost like recent, right? That really like we started to, by the way, I'm not including us, but America started to grapple with this past, and you kind of see the reaction by the evangelical kind of like monsters that are behind the scenes of everything. So like that was, I'm saying that as a background to like, that's incredible that you had this kind of curriculum that did not paper over everything with white supremacy.
Exactly. Well said.
Yeah.
go, and especially in the city school. I'm not sure it would have been so easy if kids were, you know, in my home community of Red Lake, their neighboring town is Bemidji. And, you know, I'm pretty sure they weren't teaching what we were teaching in Bemidji. Maybe they were, but, you know, it wasn't, you know, as much as what they probably wanted. And they're closer to the culture up there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We're 4 hours away, really trying to maintain and here and just really just, you know, live our lives as urban Indians and just, you know, even that term, but urban city natives and, you know, just people who lived off of the, you know, I don't like the terminology, reservation.
Right.
Just, you know, just away from our home communities. But, I visited often, well, every summer, go visit my grandma Ruth, my mom's mom, and then, my dad's mom. She lived in, back and forth, but she was from Red Lake also. Mm-hmm. Grandpa.
So, I mean, what does it mean to have a like native curriculum? Like, what were you actually taught?
It was just Ojibwe language. There was like Native American culture that would just be like, you know, showing us, reading books, mm-hmm. like from Native authors, watching our, you know, those are my favorite movies. Some of the Native movies that were out. Some of them kind of had, you know, a little bit of a heavy kind of theme, you know, with, you know, boarding schools or uh-huh. you know, different, you know, massacres or, you know, wrongdoings, you know, hangings and stuff like that. So it was just, you know, it wasn't on this is what happens. It wasn't nothing like that. It just was like, hey, you know, this is what's been, you know, it wasn't really too political either. It just was, you know, either a literature or a culture class, and, you know, just, it was just, and the culture class was open to other students. So like you could select what, you know, elective you would want. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there was the non-natives in there too.
Yeah.
So I think that what you're getting to is like, you don't see that much because, you know, I wouldn't be approached with, you know, things what people believe what they see, you know. I get the chanting a lot. Just in conversation. And, you know, and that's what, you know, other people have seen what we do. And it's like their perception is a lot more common than what we see.
Yeah.
And what I've always referenced myself or, you know, my fellow singing brothers and sisters, we're singers. Like I've never referred to another singer as a fellow chanter. Mm-hmm. Like, and I've never, you know, and that's okay. And like other people can refer to that, refer to what we do as chanting. But, you know, that's where I think natives are just cool with a lot of stuff because it's like, man, they weren't taught that. They weren't taught anything different. So we're not going to be able to change their mind.
Yeah.
But it's like, I want people to see, you know, what we see each other as. And, you know, some of these singers that I know are artists with their voice that have such a distinct voice, have, you know, songs that they've made, things like that. Like I'm just singing vocables on the record. I'm not saying nothing in a language. I'm not saying any English words. Mm-hmm. And there's other, you know, people out there who can, you know, really, really express themselves through song. And, you know, I don't want them people to get overshadowed at all.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is interesting you brought up, like, the fact that, like, if you are non-white, a lot of media just revolves around the tragedies. You know, like, every movie that I get to look at is, like, a Holocaust movie or something like that. Or, like, my wife's black, so, like, it's all slavery stuff for her, you know. It's all just, like, genocide stuff for you. Until almost recently. I think, like, you know, between Reservation Dogs and Rutherford Falls, those are maybe like the first two TV shows that just depicted life if you're Native in America without having the like having the tragedy front and center.
Okay. So that's why I'm okay. Let me touch on that for a second. Like I don't like my opinion does not matter. I'm just a dude, whatever. But there had to have been production meetings and like that script had to be approved and like there had to have been steps before it got on air. You know what I mean? Yeah. So then like there's a lot of stuff that they had to just taken out because they're going to be like, well, the white people are not going to understand this. If we just keep it 100% like how the writers probably, and I might be wrong. It might have probably not have been that elaborate or in that, in depth like that. But I think that just natives, their reception of it, not their perception, but their reception of what those shows were, it was just like, oh, they could have, but natives are so, you can't, they're hard to satisfy, hard to please. They're hard, and that's okay. Like I described my late big brother as, his premise was to make everyone laugh. And that was because he understood we all have our own traumas. And it's like, that's why some natives are just hard asses. You know what I mean? It's very hard to impress them. So I love these shows, and everyone's going to have something to say about freaking everything. And that's just the way it is. And that's how it's going to be. I'm still the same person. You're still the same person. And we can't really have too much to say about really how people are judging things anymore. But that's just how it's going to be. So I just encourage you natives out there, have an open mind with some of this stuff. Understand that there's lots of thought before this stuff comes out, before we see it. There's lots of thought being put into it. Yes, it should be more realistic. Yes, they should be more historically accurate. Yes, they shouldn't be trying to do, the characters with the black voice thing. Mm-hmm. That's what some people had with Reservation Dogs, was the two twins doing the black voice. That's those are things that have come up, which is fine. People have those opinions, but I'm encouraging Native people to still, at the same time, with all those negative things that you find, you have to find that balance. And if you are a truly spiritual Native Indigenous person, you'll understand what balance means. For all the negative things that you find about something you do not like, you go and find something 3 times as positive and to counteract all those things. I hope people are keeping that balance. And that's all I really have to say if this gets amplified out there, because I love everyone. I was born on Valentine's Day. We don't celebrate whatever happened on Valentine's Day, except for, the Pueblos killing the Southwest relatives killing the Jesuit on that day. That's the only thing I celebrate. But, I love everyone and I appreciate everyone, and I want to uplift Indigenous people as much as I can. I don't want to be the complaining Native, or I don't want to be the ones that Natives complain about either. So, olive branch, let's love each other together and just be the best. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too. I mean, one thing is that you also have all of these shows being made within a white power structure. So you have to, in some way, either be powerful enough yourself. So, one of the things, like, I'm friends with one of the main actors and writers on Rutherford Falls. And I think one of the things that they have to do is, they have Ed Helms on their side. So they can use his power in some way to protect themselves. And I think in the same way with Reservation Dogs, they have Taika Waititi to kind of protect them in some way. But unless you are the most powerful television producer, you still have to get this through a white power structure. And I think that maybe some of the concerns people you're like responding to, maybe some of the things that they're talking about are things that got dulled down because it is within a white power structure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you said the key words, even talking about education, white supremacy, about how we think about it and what it brings to our lives. I live in Wisconsin. People can't let go of stuff here. They're crawling out the 1992 right now. Some of these people in their houses. I shouldn't be talking about my customers like that. There are lots of great customers out there, but there's some service calls where it's like, holy smokes, man, these people are just getting out of the 90s right now. With their decor, whatever, you know what I mean? So I try to be contemporary as I can, living here in Wisconsin, but the rummage sales are fire. Just because these people just have and I'm a hoarder, as you can see, but you can really just take a look to some people's lives and what they only see,
Yeah.
what they only know or what they only kind of been around. So when you start to introduce different cultures and things like that, you're not going to, have that open conversation as much. You're not going to care. They lack, culture, but they have freedom and white supremacy. That's their culture,
Yeah.
Or what, like you said, the white structure of things. That's, those are the triangles and supports of lots of things in society is the white structure. How you said it was perfect, man. But the native side of it is like, we just sitting back and just like, damn, like still, it's 2022.
Yeah.
You're still going to be the way you are to, you know what I'm saying? I think it's time for us to just, I think the only thing that we're envious about Canada is that they have their native and their indigenous media arts figured out. Mm-hmm. They give a lot of endowments and a lot of grants and a lot of things. They have money for that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well,
they're corny. But whoa, can we get a little bit of that love down here?
Well,
please?
I think that's the thing is that they do have grants, whereas we don't. And so Rutherford Falls and Reservation Dogs are the very first, I think, as far as I understand, actually not just shows to feature pan-native culture or, I'm trying to remember if there's a specific tribe, but not just the first
Pan-Indianism too. I'm not trying to be a pan-Indian or whatever. I understand everything.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying though.
But it's the first show.
We have to celebrate that. So is exactly what I was saying. So,
it's going to be a little more rough than when it's the 5th show, when it's the 10th show,
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that we should be happy that, like you're saying, the first.
Yeah.
These are the first.
Produced by actual, and created by actual Native Americans, right?
Have to celebrate this and not pick apart the pan-Indianism and anything. Like at this point, we have to be that way until we can say, hey, we're not all the same. Here's, this tribe, this community, things like that. People, there's, what about Bob? Baby steps. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, it's still 2022 and people can't even take baby steps to at least include, our communication to each other or improve our, ways of expressing ourselves through art,
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you mean by that?
I think that there should be a lot more money towards, like you say, grants and things like that. Where I think it should really just be, a whole force behind, what people see or what they don't see. Like you can make that. You have that freedom of when you create, not to let so much out of our culture, but just, just have enough people to be like, damn, Indian tacos are good. So it's like, you know what I mean? Also, it's like, but that's not even, deep in our culture anyways. Like we had to create that from what they gave us. So it's like, we know it's not healthy, but you know, hey man, let's get a little bit of this food on, we don't think it's all cultural, but hey man, if you really like Indian food, man, you should really try this wild rice right here. You know what I'm saying? There's more traditional foods if you're down with us, let me take you someplace if you're really down. Let's go, to, where they have feast foods. Now, we don't do that to everyone. We don't be doing that to everyone. So I don't think you're going to get a pass out here with everyone. But if you're down and you're really down, man, well, and you learn the right way to ask things, how to ask, if you want to know real things, there's certain people out there to approach, and I'm not one of them. So yeah, no, yeah. I love it. I love being who I am and growing up in a place and time where I could develop into who I am.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think is very unique is that you grew up both, gaining confidence playing basketball right? And also in a school that allowed you to feel pride as opposed to feel alienated from your own culture. And not just like whatever pan-native culture, but like you said yourself, you had class like Ojibwe language classes, right? And things like that, where you're like learning about your own people's history and your own people's language.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah. There was a few of our, educators too that were Native that were our teachers. Mr. Joe Kingbird and the late great Don Pewash. Don Pewash was our Ojibwe teacher, and he had a stroke in school during our class. He was very joking. He was a joking kind of guy.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes he would give you a little nudge, or he'd go pull on your hair if you had long hair, men or boys or girls. He'd just be joking on you just a little bit, But that class, he like leaned on my shoulder. He was like, and someone else was presenting that day. We had a presenter in that day, and he was leaning on my shoulder, and I thought he was just giving me the old the old shoulder grab and kind of tug, Indian love, I did find it unusual at the time, but he wasn't in school after that, and come to find out, he had a stroke. He was having a stroke that day.
Oh God.
And he was leaning on me because he was losing balance. And that was like one of the last days that he was in school. But he had trouble recovering, and he soon passed away.
Oh God.
But I had a deep appreciation for the educators and the Native educators in the Minneapolis school system and surrounding areas, for their dedication to the urban city Native, being there, making yourself visible, even just being an administrator. And if you're Native and you were just an administrator, not a teacher, those things are very important to see as a Native. You might not have liked them as a kid, but now that you see a Native hall monitor or something like that, that might be a job for you when you grow up, Get these kids to class, stuff like that. So it's like, just have a deep appreciation for those adults when I was, at my younger age for being visible and really, giving yourself a role in my life, in our life, all of our lives.
I want to get back to this, but I'm kind of curious about, your childhood. You grew up in Minneapolis. Is that true?
Oh, South Side Minneapolis.
South Side.
Seward neighborhood. A great pocket of Minneapolis. It's not too hood. It's not too Edina. We're not cake eaters over there, but you always got to throw the jab at the Edina cake eaters if you're a true Minneapolis person. But I grew up Southside Minneapolis with my mom, a single mother household. My sister Amy was also living with us, but she was quite older than me, so she moved out while I was in middle school. So, I went to Ann Sullivan Communication Center in 5th grade. I was at a Montessori school for K through 5.
Oh, cool.
But then at 5th grade, I switched to the new neighborhood school, which my mom was working at. So, for her, knowing how she is, she probably preferred that. But, Ann Sullivan was, I had to, so like 4th and 5th grades, they were, going through 2 grades together. So 4th and 5th grades, if you're in 4th grade together, you'll be in 5th grade together. So then I missed the 4th grade year. So most of my math class, and then it was like 2 other classes I had with the deaf and hard of hearing kids. So I was in classes with them, with the deaf and hard of hearing kids. So I kind of learned sign language. I can spell things out pretty quick. Mm-hmm. But just opening that part of my brain, being in a learning environment with deaf and hard of hearing kids who I've seen in the past couple of years, and who has biggest embraces I've ever had in my life. Those kids in my classes, I had a very loving place in my heart for the deaf and hard of hearing community.
Did you learn ASL?
I tried to. I always tried to, because some of the kids could hear some things. There was a few kids who were all the way couldn't hear nothing. But then there was, kids that could hear, boom, you could hear like a big loud closing of a big book. Boom. Like that. Or they could hear if you screamed really loud. So like, I think one time where I was singing, I want to believe that they heard me, me singing and stuff like that before. But, yeah, deaf and hard of hearing kids, much love to everyone out there, and just that furthered my my compassion for people that were it's not like everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was your dad around at all, or was it just you? Was your dad around at all, or was it just you and your mom and sister?
My dad at an early age in my life was not around, but then all through middle school and stuff, I would see him not that often. My mom did a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I love my mom.
Yeah.
A lot, but I love my dad too. I've grown to accept why he made decisions, or because I've had to make those decisions in my own life, and I have two kids that don't live with me, but that live just a little north, and that's where I moved from. College was to there, and my daughter was about to be born. So, yeah, I was gonna have a kid, so that's why I moved away from college. If we didn't get back to that,
yeah.
But, I came to Wisconsin to raise my daughter, and then we had a son shortly afterwards, and things became what they were, and I had to make decisions. You know what I mean? So I think when my dad wasn't there, or stuff like that, there was a little bit of a healing process that went on, but I did gain a lot of insight from experiencing it myself. Now I talk to my dad a lot. Probably is not as much as he wants, but yeah, I talk to my dad, and I can call him anytime and talk with him. He's just like me, look into my future. Definitely without the elixirs or his drink of choice whenever he sits down and watches the game. But yeah, I love my dad. He's a crazy guy. Horse, that's his name, Horse. His name's Joe, but he says one of his late brothers used to call everybody Horse, which I found out moving to Wisconsin. There's a community here a half hour away that they refer to people as Horse. Like, hey, Horse, what's up, Horse? And stuff like that. So my dad says that. He still uses that terminology. So out where he lives in South Dakota, they just call him Horse. So, I love my dad. And, it's been a little bit of a healing process. And,
yeah.
But yeah, credit to my mom. And that's where a lot of the appreciation for women starts. That's like the start of it is just with my mom. I've just been supported by women, been holding me up there my whole life. It's just I can't say enough how thankful I am for women in my life.
Did your mom have a positive attitude towards your dad when you were growing up, at least in front of you?
In front of me, tried to. I knew they did try to work it out, but as I got older, they just decided, things were best if it wasn't the way it was. So, now my mom is just who she is, and she won't get mad or anything like that. No, she just she's moved on.
I mean,
my mom is deserves her own podcast, but she's very anti-media, but she tries. She'll probably listen to this. So I love you, Mom. And Dad.
I mean, okay, so you're growing up in
growing
a single parent household.
Yeah.
What is, I'm curious about, like, when did you go to your first powwow?
Good question. So I would have to say, like, the earliest my archive goes back is 1995. But I know for a fact as a baby I was at a powwow. Probably. The Indian Center in Southside Minneapolis was literally almost just over, not even a mile away from my house. And there was gatherings there constantly. So I was probably, just as even in my mom's womb, just like my wife, and we've they've been around culture ever since the womb. So yeah, that's how I'll say, early as maybe 92 or 90. I mean, early.
So you
in
were
my
a
life.
kid.
But I have a tape from 1995. That's how far
that you
back
taped
my
yourself.
goes. Taped powwows, recording with a tape recorder.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see. Those are not all mine. Those are just like my hoarding collection. Yeah.
Were you singing at an early age at the powwows, or dancing?
Not at the powwows. I did have a little outfit, when I was younger, but I did not get into dancing. I got into singing. But then just, who my mom was friends with, where I actually was babysat. My Auntie Debbie, it's not, I have a real Auntie Debbie, but then this is my mom's friend who's like an aunt to me. She can be another, she could actually is like one of my moms. I was there a lot. And so natives, they have that weird sense of family, sense of kinship and stuff like that. So like, we don't have first cousins. We have brothers and sisters and things like that. So very open to calling my family, people who are not my family, family members, just because of their roles in my life. But, I grew up in, Debbie's household, whose son was a member of a young singing group in Minneapolis at the time called The Boys. And, they were just a bunch of young guys at the time, high school students, or just, graduating and things like that. And I was in that house where they would, be in and out, they would practice sometimes at different houses and stuff like that. So I was just around it just to be, there. But then I caught on to it, and I just started recording any chance that I got once I figured out how to work a tape or a recorder. And then, I would just go around and record. And that's how I got into it. I would go home and I'd listen to tapes, like, I'd just go home and listen over and over.
Do you know what it meant to you when you were younger? Like, what was did it fill in something for you? Was it a connection for you? What was it for you?
It was like an extracurricular activity, I guess you could say. It was just something different that you didn't have to do. My mom was involved in an Episcopal church in Minneapolis. There was a native Episcopal community, and Episcopalians were very good to. As I don't know if they were good, but there was, I guess they were the most okay in Minnesota. I think my mom was Episcopalian because my grandmother Ruth was. So I did grow up in the church, so I didn't grasp any of it. Grasped a little bit now that I can sometimes theorize about things like, well, they didn't say that in the Bible. Why are they acting like that? Or I can reference it. I can reference it
on a daily basis. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's like that I just view that part of my life as just a part of my life, and I went there in respect of my mom and my grandma. I went there in respect of them, but I wasn't required to take that book and run with it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm in my head and I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, it seems like native culture or maybe, and like white Christian culture are kind of at odds with each other in some way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. My mom recognized residential schools. I knew about them when I was younger. There was a movie that it was very, very scary. I forget what that movie was, but at a young age, I still thought that would happen to me.
Yeah. And
I seen that movie.
That's before it was like common knowledge that how murderous the schools were.
Yes. So, going to those things like just being on a basketball team, going to those Sunday school things, like, man, there's some good basketball players in those things. Like, dang, I didn't care how to, okay, that's a nice story, but when are we going to the gym? When can I go play some basketball in your church? That was me. Uh-huh. That was what I was into. So, that's what I was just like, okay, I'm here for moms. I love my mom a lot. This is how she is getting through her life and how she's being prayerful in this way.
Yeah.
She's showing her dedication through prayer. And, I had a lot of respect for my mom's dedication to the church. Wasn't for me. I knew it wasn't for me. But I'll do anything for my mom.
Outside of like going to powwows when you were younger, how did like Ojibwe culture show up in your household, or did it, I guess?
So, like I said, my mom involved me in a lot of youth communities, or the youth programs and things like that. So they had a lot of outreach and stuff like that through, bringing kids to sweat lodges, or bringing them to wild rice, or bringing them to maple sugar camps, which was my favorite. That's where I went. And there'll also be storytelling throughout the winters. So, we weren't ceremonial. Like there's, ceremonies that go on in different home communities that happen. But, I wasn't a part of that because my mom was a churchgoer.
Right.
So,
right.
So, I would only just pick up from different things that I would go to, from different family members that would bring me. Or, I would learn through the different youth programs that would have people come and kind of explain what the spiritual side of being Native is about, and how to use, certain tools that were given to us to pray with, or to really kind of center yourself through spirituality in the most basic, most fundamental ways. I think that it wasn't very in depth because I think they wanted you to finish, the sentence, I guess you could say. But, they kind of left that there for you to kind of just pick up and use every day, but without giving into, too deep of, cultural teachings and things like that.
And did you finish the sentence yourself? Did you take that in?
Yeah. Yeah. I would always, go and ask, older people, my drum teachers and things like that, what they would know about, going to ceremonies or know what kind of songs to sing. I remember being a young Native singer with a group of young Native, boys, and this was kind of like, in a teenage, we were asked to sing a certain song, and we didn't know it. And I remember going to, remembering the protocols taught to me, and I asked someone, what is that song? Can you teach it to us, and things like that. So, we did know, the right thing to do and how to ask for things. And I think that, it was never discouraged to do that ever. So I think, that's a little further along the line of what you were talking about. Like, how did I get around singing? Well, I was, there's a few youth drum groups in the city that I kind of just joined, and, that was a part of my teenage years and things like that. But I always looked up to the boy singers, and I always kept a relationship with them, and I was always little Joey to them, and I still am. I still am. I'm still little Joey to them. So, because that's they remember me from, and that's where I was, the start, where I was just a little dude.
Yeah. So then when do you I guess I'm saying for real in quotes, and you can tell me whatever that means, because I'm not sure. But when do you, for real in quotes, start singing at powwows?
Oh, man. So we started singing youth groups type stuff, and that was cute, getting in youth contests and things like that. But then I started singing for real, like at powwows with my, you know, my friends around the city, I guess you could say. But then, you know, my cousins from Wisconsin, I have, my dad's sister had kids in Wisconsin. Those are my cousins. They're not my brothers. Mm-hmm. But I did sing with them, around, but we didn't contest that much. But then shortly after, like 2008, 2008, I started like, I was of age, first of all. Old enough to at least sit outside while everyone's in the bar. Mm-hmm. So, I was more of age in like '08, and they kind of just were like, well, hey, you know, Joey has a good singing voice, you know, and he's from Minneapolis. You know, Midnight Express was, you know, just like, hey, let's go for a little tour on the West Coast, hit a couple powwows, and then we came back, and you know, I was accepted into the group, even though it was kind of meant to be, or, you know, meant to happen. But that, I'd have to say, like, started competing, like, in you know, putting the big boy pants on, probably 2008.
Okay. So you know, you've been competing.
Well, probably then. Like 06. Probably 06? Like 06, like out of high school, you know, because you go through puberty, and you know, your singing voice goes away for like 13 to, you know, probably about 5 years. Uh-huh. But but it's important to not smoke cigarettes. If there's any young singers out there, don't smoke cigarettes, and don't smoke, and sing through your change. Sing through the voice change, even though it's going to sound crazy. Sing through it, because you're going to come out. And that's just what was taught to me, was to sing through it.
I mean, we're right at the end of the show, and I'm just kind of curious. So, you know, you've been doing this, you know, in a quote unquote real capacity for like 15, 16 years. And then, you know, what's the process of like making an album? Again, it's like, I'm curious, because then now it's like, you're not in the same cultural context anymore. This is now open to, you know, everyone who wants to. This is contemporary collaborative project. Yeah. You know,
and I came to this through, like I said, I just talking with people, or just, you know, shooting the shit with people or whatever. You know, I've just been, you know, very talkative type person, you know, any time of day. If you want to talk about something, we could talk about it, you know, but through music, I felt like I had something to say. I just didn't know how to say it. Huh. And I wanted to, you know, thank everyone who has invited me to be a sample on their project, or for me to kind of sing in the background on their project. But I wanted to have that chance to kind of put it straight to where it was in my head and my ears. It wasn't offbeat to me, however they placed and everything like that in the production process. But I wanted a chance to, you know, do what I thought was what they were trying to say, I guess you would say. But the asking of who was going to lay that beat for me was a little difficult. It wasn't like a bad, you know, it just was, you know, I had someone in mind, and it was Andrew Broder. Right. And as soon as I, you know, kind of figured out, I wanted him to lay down the bed, and I wanted to jump on that mofo. I wanted to go crazy, and I knew exactly who I wanted to give me that sound, but I asked him in a way where he thought that I was trying to have him be the indigenous drum part of it. Uh-huh. When I was just actually just asking him to be Broder, but give me some tempos to sing over, or give me some weird noises to sing over. So that was like the basis of like the start of what this is. But the actual music has come from wanting to express myself in some sort of way. And the solo part about it was a little hard for me to get over. There are some drum groups that have singers that go solo, and they make certain hand drum albums with, you know, songs with lyrics in them and things like that. That was more of like I don't want to say traditional route, because I'm not saying, but it was just like, that was the route most guys did as singers. Me, however, I'm totally different. And if I was going to come out with something that's, by itself, it would have to be totally different from what has already been done, because that's who I am, and I'm not in the box.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in some way, it's like, I mean, this is so armchair psychology stuff, but it's both the stuff you learned playing sports, right? That kind of teamwork kind of thing. And also like the fact that you are an individual, right? You had long arms, you could shoot, right? You were your own person within this team. And so you wanted to do your own thing. Again, armchair psychology. I fully admit to
it's okay. We're
doing that kind of stuff.
I don't have one of those hanging up back here. It's okay. It's okay. This is good. This is healthy. But it's interesting. I'm very curious about like, is there something like when you said like Andrew Broder did his thing, like, is there what was it about like working with, say, like a drum group or something like that? Like that was that made it a certain thing, or like, what is, I guess the question I'm looking for is like, what makes indigenous drumming that you wanted to like kind of do something different? So I wanted to be the voice, and I wanted the drum to come from somewhere else. I just thought that the drumming itself, two different, it kind of gives you like the certain beats and the certain, drum styles or the certain song styles, really are different. You know what I mean? And they're kind of set into this. Like if you have this type of beat, you kind of have to sing this type of way. So if you heard the drum, if you heard me in the drum, that would, if I started a beat this way, I would have to sing a song that goes with that beat. Rather, like probably a good handful of these songs, maybe except for like 2 or 3, aren't in a powwow song form. They're just like freestyles, I guess you could say.
Uh-huh.
But I don't want to say freestyle because Broder sent me like 10 minutes long of, certain tracks where I would just literally have that loop of whatever, I had that in my, just sitting there listening, singing into this microphone, whatever came to mind. And most of the time it was just whatever came out. I had to quickly try to remember and then sing it, repeat it. So a lot of these songs and the vocal takes are the original vocal takes, and they're not to powwow song form at all. So I kind of made up my own kind of stuff to fit what Broder was doing. So I wasn't confined to the drum beat that I would give and that I would have to sing. So I had a lot more freedom with Broder's stuff that I could kind of create my own kind of thing. Nothing was to the grid either. So we're going through that process right now and rehearsing a live, some sort of live show. We're going through that rehearsal process right now, really trying to figure out, we gotta tame this a little bit, even though this is really, really cool.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining me. It was really great to talk to you.
This is awesome.
I really love the album.
This is awesome. Thanks, man. Did you have a favorite?
I'm terrible with pronunciations. The fourth
track
song.
4?
I think song 4.
Bejigo, the one that just came out. Bejigo. Yeah, that one. That was a freestyle type thing.
Yeah,
so
it's great.
Surprised myself with that. And a few of those other songs, we built around them for sure. But all the song titles they mean something.
I mean, do you mind if I ask one last question then? Like when you're freestyling, like what is coming up for you? Like are you just like letting yourself kind of like sink into a moment? Are
Completely. That's why I said I zoned out for like 7 minutes sometimes and just listen. And I credit the people who I've seen do this before. My late big brother Mac was the crazy freestyler, and he would make funny songs. He'd talk about you on the spot, all that thing. And then I've seen one of my, few of my brothers, make stuff in what they say one push up, meaning that they just sing a song and that's what comes out. Mm-hmm. My brother Worm, the song wizard, Jeremy Worm Dearly, I've seen make songs like that. Just, the song structure of how, the lead, the body, the same exact body and the same exact lead. That was very, very hard to do, I think it's a challenge. Not many can do it. I've not seen too many people do it, but I've spent many hours in the car with that dude. And, man, he's a song wizard, as I like to say. Yeah. So I was just channeling what I've seen before. You know what I mean? So it's just, I was just being a good little brother.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Joe. I really appreciate it.
Cool, man. Cool.
Bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye.